Honourable the member for Guysborough Port Hawkesbury. The honourable member for Guysborough Port Hawkesbury.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And it does give me great pleasure today to rise and speak about the exciting new opportunities that Guysborough County is experiencing and will experience in the future. Many of these new opportunities have been and will be made possible because of 37 trillion cubic feet of gas reserves, 200 kilometers off the coast of Guysborough County. Mr. Speaker, one member rose in this House last week and said, "Nothing has happened under the watch of this minister or this premier in regard to the offshore." Well, Mr. Speaker, I would have to say that this has not been my experience in Guysborough County. Mr. Speaker, this government has developed and implemented an energy strategy that is realistic, forward-thinking, and puts Nova Scotians first. This government established a first department solely dedicated to energy and energy issues. The Department of Energy is working with industry and other stakeholders in order to maximize benefits to Nova Scotia for all aspects of the emerging oil and gas industry. Mr. Speaker, it is well known that the people of Guysborough County have experienced hard times. Closures in the fisheries have impacted the area terribly. But one door is closing, another one is opening. As fishermen look to the sea for their livelihoods, we look to the sea once more. But this time, Mr. Speaker, not for fish. This time the product is natural gas. The people of Guysborough County are hardworking, dedicated, intelligent, and are keen to take advantage of the training programs that will prepare them for the future opportunities. Mr. Speaker, Guysborough County is home to one of the largest gas processing plants in North America, Sable Offshore Energy Incorporated. Sable Offshore Energy Incorporated's Goldboro plant has brought 30 good-paying long-term jobs into a very small community and is making a difference in the lives of many of those who live in that community. Today, Goldboro has a substantial advantage over many communities when it comes to attracting business because of that plant. We all know that energy is one of the major costs to large operations. Because of Goldboro's unique access to natural gas, its transmission costs are the lowest anywhere in Atlantic Canada and the northeastern seaboard of the United States. That will attract business to the community, and this government is actively seeking opportunities in this area. The Soe plant is located in the municipally owned Goldboro Industrial Park. The $200 million natural gas processing plant averages 554 million cubic feet of gas daily. It has more capacity for processing and expansion to accommodate the many reserves surrounding Nova Scotia. Gas liquids such as ethane are to be extracted at Goldboro as well. This increases the value of locating ethylene and polyethylene plant in that community. Mr. Speaker, the Goldboro Wharf was completely reconstructed by Soe to facilitate the transportation of large structural elements to the gas plant. This type of construction will continue to benefit the community for many years to come. Emergency services in Guysborough County have also improved because of the existence of the Goldboro plant. The increase in the local fire tax levy for District 7 has enabled Harborview Volunteer Fire Department to obtain new equipment. And Mr. Speaker, I'm glad to report tonight that they have a $175,000 new fire truck that's being delivered probably this week because of that. Soe has also provided volunteer firefighters with jaws of life because of their proximity to the gas plant. Mr. Speaker, this government has worked hard to protect Nova Scotia and Guysborough County's interest. It was able to negotiate a deal with Maritimes and Northeast Pipeline and is very close, Mr. Speaker, to negotiating a deal for assessment on the Goldboro gas plant. Mr. Speaker, this means that residential and business taxes will remain low. And another good news item for Guysborough County as far as taxes go, Mr. Speaker, Guysborough municipality, I believe, have the lowest tax rate in the province at 60 cents. at 60 cents per hundred of assessment for that municipality. And in District of St. Mary's, Mr. Speaker, the tax rate for residential is 84 cents per hundred of assessment. And Mr. Speaker, this means that those municipalities will have a lot more money to spend on things like recreation and infrastructure. For example, take the Little Dover Sewage and Water Treatment Facility. The project, funded by the provincial and federal governments and the municipality of the District of Guysborough, made the construction of a centralized sewer collection and treatment system to serve the 150 homes in that community possible. This project cost almost $3 million, Mr. Speaker. The municipality was able to contribute almost $1 million to the construction of this facility, thanks to the increased municipal tax dollars brought to the community because of the Sable Gas Pipeline. If it wasn't for the tax dollars paid by the Sable Gas project, the people of Little Dover and the municipality of the District of Guysborough would not have been able to afford to contribute to the construction of this important facility, and the project would not have been possible. Mr. Speaker, I'd also like to point out that the municipality of the District of Guysborough won the Municipal Innova Award for their creative solution to fix the water sewage treatment problems in that community. Today, the people of Little Dover don't have to worry about the safety of their water. The oil and gas industry, Mr. Speaker, can take some responsibility for that. Mr. Speaker, the municipality of the District of St. Mary's has been able to contribute more than $40,000 in addition to the funds provided by the province and the federal government for new water meters and utility upgrades for 142 customers of the Sherbrooke water system. The Sherbrooke water and wastewater utility upgrades will allow the water utility to quickly detect and repair leaks, resulting in less wasted water. Improvements will also further reduce operating costs by using less power and chemicals. The community will benefit from a consistent level of service for all customers and improve water appearance and quality. The warden of the District of St. Mary's has said that this project will definitely have a positive impact on our community and make the community a better place to live, work, and visit. Another example of infrastructure that we have today, thanks to increased municipal revenues, are the sidewalks in the town of Guysborough. Residents and visitors alike can now enjoy safe and enjoyable walks throughout the town. Mr. Speaker, this government recognizes that we need to be prepared to meet the needs of our developing industries. That's why this government has increased the funding to the Nova Scotia Community College to ensure our citizens have the skills they need to compete and prosper in the developing industries of this province. 80 new seats will be created at the Strait campus for the Nova Scotia Community College. This $2.7 million investment will bring additional trades and forestry programs to the area so students can stay closer to home to get the skills they need. Infrastructure programs in Guysborough County have taken on new urgency and priority. While the oil and gas industry is still in its infancy in this province, it is up to us to create infrastructure so that we sustain industries here. Over the past 3 years, this government has spent more than $7 million in capital expenditures throughout Guysborough County. Driving along Route 16, 211, 374, and 344 is becoming easier. And this year, we will pave another 13 kilometers along the number 7 highway as part of this government's $17 million investment in the only major highway along the eastern shore, Mr. Speaker. This year, we will also see additional improvements made to Route 16, making the trip to and from Canso much easier. Mr. Speaker, the same member whom I mentioned earlier also said in this House, leadership for the offshore must be provided here in Nova Scotia, and on this, I cannot disagree. Fortunately, here in Nova Scotia, we do have leadership, strong leadership from a premier who has stood up for the rights of Nova Scotians. To make sure that decisions are made based on the best interests of the people of the province. Mr. Speaker, that premier is our leader, John Ham, and who, unlike the previous government's leader, has a realistic view of what is attainable in this province and will make the appropriate decisions to maintain a viable oil and gas industry in this province. Mr. Speaker, Guysborough County has an expanding potential for growth. And thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Cape Breton South.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Pleased to rise and join this debate, and I have to say that this motion by the government member here is nothing short of a last-ditch attempt to try to get re-elected. You know, that anybody that would bring this motion to the House knowing full well that the only offshore activity that ever took place in that county was a Liberal-sponsored activity with Sable prior to this government coming to office. And you know, Mr. Speaker, one of the champions of that project in the Strait area was Gordon MacDonald, who worked long and hard with our government to make sure that that Sable project became a reality and that that county that member represents benefited from it. It was Gordon MacDonald and the people in that area, the good municipal people down there and the people that were on side with us with the Sable project, they were the group that ensured that the Sable project would come to fruition in that part of Nova Scotia. But I don't want to dwell on that. The member talks about what's happened in his county, but he hasn't talked about what has not happened since his government took office. I want to read something that came out of the Halifax Herald by Judy Murden when she was over in Houston talking about the offshore activity over there on what's been happening there with the technology conference that the minister is at. And here's what the Mines and Energy Minister of British Columbia states. Nova Scotia has become a textbook case on how not to develop its offshore industry, says British Columbia's Mines and Energy Minister Richard Neufeld at the largest oil and gas event in the world. Now that's quite an indictment for one energy minister to tell about another energy minister that Nova Scotia has really missed the mark here. You know, you have to look at what happened down there since the present Tory government took office. Nothing. Where was the petrochemical industry that was supposed to be developed in the Strait area? It was well underway to becoming a reality when this government took over, and there's been not a word said about it since, not a word. Where is the aluminum smelter? Where is the vibrant offshore supply base? Where is the electrical generation facilities and secondary industries? Mr. Speaker, this government has done nothing to promote the offshore industry in the Strait area of Nova Scotia, or for that matter, Mr. Speaker, anywhere else in Nova Scotia. Because, Mr. Speaker, it took us a whole year of prodding in this place, prodding the government to finally set up a Ministry of Energy in this province. Before that, we had a part-time minister of the Petroleum Directorate who had no idea what was going on in the offshore, didn't do anything to try to enhance the image of his department. The Premier made a statement, a public statement in a public place, that the economy of Nova Scotia will grow in the future with or without the oil and gas industry. Now, the member for Guysborough Port Hawkesbury stands in this place and he totes all that's being done by his government, when in fact the Premier has said he doesn't need it. Doesn't need the oil and gas industry to grow the economy in this province. But what he forgets to tell people, Mr. Speaker, is how the economy is going to grow without oil and gas. He conveniently forgets to tell people in Nova Scotia how the economy is going to grow. We in the opposition know how it's going to grow by increased user fees, increased taxes, larger debt in this province, larger costs for just about everything that consumers need. That's how it's going to grow. They're going to continue to pick the pockets of Nova Scotians and put it on their balance sheet. That's how it's going to grow. They're still borrowing money, Mr. Speaker. The member for Guysborough Port Hawkesbury talks about all that's happening in the Strait area. Mr. Speaker, big deal. They're going to pave a few roads in election year down there to get the member re-elected. It's not going to work because the people in that area have saw nothing more than a stall, Mr. Speaker, a stall in the offshore activities in that part of Nova Scotia. You know, the truth is that here we are 4 years into the mandate of this government, 4 years, and Nova Scotians still aren't getting natural gas in their homes. Brunswick is getting our gas. The United States are getting our gas. The feedstock off our gas is probably going to be used in petrochemical industries elsewhere in the States, not in the Strait area. The member who spoke here today, the member from Guysborough-Port Hawkesbury, has not said one word inside or outside of this House in 4 years about promoting his area for petrochemical industry or for jobs in the future. The only activity that took place, Mr. Speaker, was an activity from the McClellan government on the Sable project. And I happened to be proud to be the minister of the day when we went down there and told the people of that area that we were going to promote that area in the future. We were going to promote the Strait area with the benefits of offshore gas and oil. What happened? This government came into office, nothing happened. Nothing happened. You couldn't even get an answer out of the previous minister as to whether or not the oil companies were in fact going to be around Nova Scotia in the future. He didn't seem to care, didn't seem to know. You know, and now the present minister says everything is okay. Well, oil companies are leaving. If that's okay, fine. With him, that's okay. Because the premier of this province says he doesn't need oil and gas. The minister doesn't know whether they need oil and gas or how they're going to get it into people's homes in Nova Scotia. And what we've been saying consistently is that the people of Nova Scotia deserve an alternate energy source if they so wish to use it. We didn't want to bring our gas ashore in Nova Scotia to have New Brunswick people use it or have people in the eastern United States use it. We would hope that the availability of the gas would be here in Nova Scotia for consumers. You know, people in Guysborough have tried to make a difference here. They've been very proactive, and I congratulate them for that. The warden, I know the warden down there, and I know, I'll refer again to Gordie MacDonald, who has championed the cause of promotion of the oil and gas industry in the Strait area. And he will be the next member coming from that area, and I'm sure, Mr. Speaker, that he, as a valuable member of the Graham government, which will be taking over office here in Nova Scotia following the next election, will have an opportunity, Mr. Speaker, an opportunity to really do something for his area, because he will have a voice in our government. He will be a voice, not a voice in the wilderness like the present member is, not a voice in the wilderness of a desperate member trying to get re-elected by saying everything is all right in Guysborough-Port Hawkesbury. Mr. Speaker, everything is not all right in Guysborough-Port Hawkesbury, because his government, under the leadership of his premier, have done absolutely nothing to promote the oil and gas industry in the Strait area, or, as I said before, anywhere else in Nova Scotia. Mr. Speaker, it's nothing short of a sham in this province, the little attention this government pays. They have an energy department which they finally set up, and they have a $7 million budget to run the entire operation, dealing with the oil companies in Nova Scotia. The oil companies and the gas companies are being strangled by this government. They're being strangled in regulations. They're being strangled by a government who doesn't seem to want to do business with them. And if there's one thing the oil and gas industry asks, is for certainty. They want to know where they're heading in the future whenever they set up shop anywhere. They want to know that they're dealing with a government who's going to pay attention to that sector of the economy. They want to know that any money they invest here is going to be money well invested. They want to know that a government will try and protect an area like Guysborough-Port Hawkesbury and indeed make it grow. That hasn't happened. The last time any significant development took place in this province was the Sable project, in terms of actually being a project that Nova Scotians could point to and say, this project is creating jobs both onshore and offshore. This project is contributing to the economy of the Guysborough-Port Hawkesbury area and other parts of Nova Scotia. It was a deal made with the offshore that is enabling these municipalities that he talks about to get more revenue. But the government, again, has held that up in red tape for over a year. They've been arguing and fighting over who's going to get the revenues. So that minister, or that Minister of Energy, should tell that member from Guysborough-Port Hawkesbury that he had better be more vocal if he's going to get anything in that area, because the government, I feel, has no intentions of doing anything there except to try to con their way through the next election. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Halifax-Shabasta.
Well, Mr. Speaker, this debate is a very sad end to the day's proceedings. It
must make for very poignant reading for the very few residents who are actually left in Guysborough County to read the speech that their member gave us this afternoon. I don't often agree with the honourable member for Cape Breton South, but I have to say that a lot of what he spoke in response to this resolution was quite accurate. He exaggerated, of course, his own government's achievements, and I don't think he was entirely accurate in his observations about what we might expect from the offshore. But when it came to making observations about the failures of the present government with respect to Guysborough County, he was entirely correct. What was particularly poignant, I think, and I have to say, I hope the member didn't actually write this speech himself. I hope that on this very rare occasion, when we actually had the opportunity to hear the member from Guysborough, Port Hawkesbury speak in this chamber, that he was invited to read into the record something that someone else wrote. For, Mr. Speaker, listen to what he said to us. He said, one door is closing and another is opening. And what he meant by that was that the opportunities in the ocean that have traditionally been represented by fishing should be seen as the door closing. And he was trying to suggest to us that Guysborough County could still look to the sea, but they should look to the sea for natural gas. You know what? Even if the benefits of natural gas for Guysborough County were at the level that the member suggested they were, they would not be adequate to replace the lost opportunities for richness from the sea that should flow to the people in Guysborough County and that have flowed to people in Guysborough County for hundreds of years. It's only with respect to fishing that there should be a long-term future for people in those communities. I think particularly about a community like Canso that's fighting for its life. And there has been a resounding silence, unfortunately from that member and unfortunately from his whole government, when it comes to trying to do something long-lasting for communities like Canso. The truth about natural gas is that it isn't going to last for very long. The best we can hope from the SOA project is that it might last for 25 years. And even now, though, with the revised forecasts, we're looking at probably 20 years, perhaps less. And there are no new offshore gas fields that are actually being developed at the moment. The offshore has stalled. And I want to tell the member that unfortunately, from his perspective, the real part of the province that has benefited the most from offshore exploration and development has been Metro. It hasn't been Guysborough County. Certainly the case that there have been some good things in terms of short-term stimulus for Guysborough County. But most of the benefits have been right here in Metro, in my constituency, and in the other core Metro constituencies. This is where the shipbuilding gets done. This is where the service industries are. This is where the engineers are. This is where the oil and gas companies have their headquarters. This is where their professionals are buying their homes. This is where most of the people who work in servicing, in exploring, in doing the background information, in doing the professional studies that are associated with exploration are located, right here in Metro. And the offshore oil and gas companies were completely upfront from day one when they came with the SOA proposal about that fact. They made it clear in their socioeconomic impact studies that most of the benefits were going to be here in Metro. Now it's true that having a plant that you can tax for municipal purposes is a big benefit as long as it's there in Guysborough County. And it's equally the case that some of the jobs that go with servicing that plant clearly are for people who are going to be living in that area and do live in that area. And that's fine. That's a stimulus. But look at the unemployment rate. in that area. Whenever we look at the figures that come on a regular basis from Human Resources and Development Canada, we see that that area of the province has a much higher unemployment rate than does Metro or does the provincial average. So the problem has not been solved. And we know, and we've just seen it demonstrated in the redrawing of provincial boundaries, that there is a severe loss of population in that part of the province. The young people are moving out, and the people who are left are aging. The young people see that there is no future for them. The kind of future that really would be appropriate, I mentioned Canso, St. Mary's, other fishing communities, would be something that's oriented towards the traditional activity of fishing. That supplies jobs for people who go fishing, it supplies jobs for people who outfit those ships, it supplies jobs for people who process the fish when the fish come ashore. That is something that is sustainable, ongoing, and can provide jobs in abundance. That is not what we see, unfortunately, in Guysborough County with respect to natural gas. And the government has failed to do what needs to be done in order to stimulate jobs in the fishery in Guysborough County. What we've seen is a strategy that's been relied upon in several other parts of this province. I've heard a number of speakers on the government side point, apparently proudly, to the job creation record of this government. They keep saying 26,000 jobs have been created over the four years of their government. And in a way, that's accurate. But you know what? 50% of those jobs are in call centers. Fully half of those jobs are in call centers in different parts of the province. And call center jobs are notoriously mobile. The companies are induced to come here with grants and subsidies, but they could be induced to go anywhere with grants and subsidies. And at some point when those grants and subsidies expire, those companies can easily pick up and move. They're mobile, they don't have to be here. They'll go wherever they want to go. They'll go wherever they can get the best deal from a local government. I don't think that this is the kind of business we want to be in. It certainly isn't a replacement for something like the fishery that's been here for 500 years and longer. It can't be. The jobs aren't nearly high-paying enough, and they don't have the potential to go on forever, the same way fishing jobs do. That isn't an answer. But unfortunately, it's been the kind of answer we've seen from that government. We've heard mention about the government's energy strategy as if this was going to somehow benefit people in Guysborough. I have to say, this is lost on me. It's not far from obvious that there is a robust future for us based on the offshore. It may be, but it's far from proven. And no one should have stars in their eyes, least of all people who live in a very poor and depopulating part of the province like Guysborough County. What you have to recognize is that the natural gas industry is also mobile. And however attractive it might be to find good supplies of natural gas off our shore and sell to that ready market in the United States, however attractive that might be, it's far from clear that we're going to be the big beneficiaries. The numbers of jobs we get are really tiny. The royalty regime is not good. And there's been no improvement in that. And there's nothing in that energy strategy that's really going to change that. And as correctly pointed out earlier, there's no petrochemical industry present or on the horizon. So the prospects are not good. There has been no real industrial development based on the initial injection of capital into Guysborough County. That is the hard and inescapable fact. That government should be lobbying Mr. Thibeault and lobbying Mr. Thibeault very hard to get sustainable, long-lasting fishing jobs for Guysborough County. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, and that concludes late debate.